Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're gonna celebrate the men and women who have served in our armed forces, and I'm gonna be making two thank you cards on two separate recordings. So this will be the first one, and I won't be doing any kind of speeding up or anything. Here's the final card, what it looks like, and I'm just going to show you the process and how I got there. I've used some Technique Junkies stamps, and I've used another company's brand die cut, and we'll go ahead and get started. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab just a piece of the Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I am going to trim it, and look at that, I made a mess on it. Typical. I am going to trim that to the size that I want, which is going to be 4 by 5 1/4. And the reason I'm doing that, and the reason the video skipped like that, is I should have done that in the first place, colored the background, because I end up smearing the first one like crazy, even though I thought it was dry. So just keep in mind that dye inks, especially red dye ink, when you start adding another ink on top of it and it's not completely dry, it's going to spread out all over the place. So my thing ended up pink. So what I want to do is I want to color the background here with some antique linen. And there's a little bit of tea dye on my brush, so it kind of blends in with it, but I'm okay with it. It gives it a nice kind of, you know, antique-y look, and that's the look I'm going for here today, is vintage and beat up. So I'm just going to color this entire background here before I stamp on it, and I am coloring with Oxides here. And it looks blotchy, and that's exactly what I want. So I'm just showing you that I had used some tea dye with that brush earlier and forgot to clean it off. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe up my mess here. And I'm going to grab my Tim Holtz stamping platform. And I'm going to lay my piece of paper in here. And lay my magnet down, because I may have to do more than one stamping. I think I might have actually warped my platform by maybe putting a heat tool on it. But this is the Falling Star stamp from Technique Junkies. And I'm going to go ahead and get it stuck to my platform here, and it's okay if it does not all the way to the top, because I will be trimming as well. And I'm going to go in with Catherine Pooler Dress Blues. This is the perfect blue for this, and this is out of the brand new Luxe color set. I didn't buy the entire set, I will, but I definitely had to have right away this Dress Blues. And the ink pad's really very, very juicy, so I'm hoping one stamping will do it, and there's a good likelihood I got some on my fingers, because those pads are quite juicy. So I decide that I just wanted one more pass on there, because, nope, don't need another pass, never mind, that was the last one that I broke. I didn't figure I'd show you 15-20 minutes of me breaking a card. It happens. You learn. So let me clean up all this excess blue here so I don't get it all over, and you see how I smeared some at the top, but that's okay, I'll be trimming that off. I'm going to move this up to the top because I'm going to be doing the bottom now. I'm going to just kind of move it over a little bit too, so it's not in such a rocky spot. And what I'm going to grab is, this is one of my favorite from Technique Junkies. I just love the backgrounds from them. This is Pillow Ticking. And it makes perfect little kind of grungy stripes. So I'm going to get it kind of placed where I want it, and then I'm going to be using a Simon Hurley ink here. I'm going to be using Game Over, which is a favorite red of mine. It's kind of a, more of a kind of a maroony red, or a wine colored red. And I'm going for the, not the traditional reds and blues here, but more of a vintage look. So I'm just going to lay that down and kind of just let that ink soak in. Give it a good push. Isn't that cool? I just love that. But I do need a little bit more, so I'm adding more ink. And I've just re-inked this ink pad, but I didn't, do the whole ritual like you're supposed to do, waiting for a little bit. I just went in and started using it because I needed it. I'll go ahead and use my little handmade pressing tool here to kind of get even pressure all around on that. And it looks grungy and I love it. So I'm going to go ahead and clean off my stamp because I made a mess with it earlier with red. As you go, and I've only been doing this since September of 2020, I think. You'll learn little tricks and little be carefuls of. And smudging the ink is the worst. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out of my stamping platform and get that right out of my way here. And I'm going to start working on trimming this down, and I'm going to trim it actually after I kind of give it a little bit of heat set because I don't want to smear it any more than it's already smeared. But I'm going to grab my decal trimmer and turn it the right way, and I'm going to trim off that whole edge. I'm going to trim it down to 4 inches, and that completely trims it down to 5 1/4. And then I end up actually doing 3 3 3/4 by 5 because I want to mat this onto another color. Let me just get this scrap out of my way here. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my vintage photo oxide and dirty up the edges. So I'm just going to go all the way around, just kind of round circular motions, just getting it grungy here. And, hiding any white core, because at this point you wouldn't recognize that this was ever a white piece of paper. I just love paper crafting. It is so cool how you can change something in such a short time. It's not like, sewing, you got to put it all together. I mean, you can picture it in your head, but this just changes. Boom, it's add color and it's not white anymore. And, quick and easy, satisfying. So let me get that out of the way. And go ahead and clean up my mess again. And I'm not going to tamp that off or anything. I'm just going to clean it. There I've got my background panel complete. So I'm going to take another piece of paper, and this is the same paper. It is the, what is it? I forgot already. It's made by Canson. Oh, it's Bristol Smooth. And I want to say it's 100 pound. Maybe it's 110. I'm going to trim this down to 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to magically transform this one, again, using the Dress Blues. And I'm just going to take a blending brush, one of my ink blending brushes, and basically just go around the edges of that to get that same blue color that's in the stars. Now you'll see that it's not quite the same because remember I stamped those stars over that antique linen. But it's okay because there's more to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and go around all 4 of the edges. And while I'm doing that, just take a minute to thank all of our veterans for being out there and risking your life to defend our country. I really appreciate it, and I know a lot of us do. And, I'm from the Vietnam era. And honestly, a lot of our veterans didn't get the appreciation they deserved when they came back. And, I don't think we as Americans can ever make up for that, how we treated them. And most of the veterans I know that are gone now, I had 2 neighbors, both Vietnam, both exposed to Agent Orange, both unable to have children. I'm going to go ahead and grunge this up a little with water here and put a little water, and I will use that excess ink I'll just grab a piece of watercolor cardstock and dab it in there just to have it, because I just love this color. Anyways, I wanted to take some time out of my life to create a couple of videos expressing my thanks to the men and women that have served. I'm going to go ahead and dry that off. I just like the added oomph it gives it. And you won't see most of it, but you're going to see the very edges, and I do want those to have this particular touch to it. Okay, so now I've got that nice and dry. What I want to do is I want to try and kind of match what's going on the blue stars on the inside. So I start, and I'm just going to go around fairly lightly with the antique linen. Just to kind of dull that color down a bit. And then I'll go ahead and grab a little bit of vintage photo as well. And I'm not even going to put extra ink on there. I'm just going to use what I have just to, again, kind of dull that blue down. Gosh, that blue, I just love that blue. I can't even get over how much I love that blue. And go ahead and clean up my mess here. And I've got a piece of craft cardstock, and I want to use craft for this one. I'm going to use craft for both because it just goes well with this sort of vintagey look. So I'm going to go ahead and just glue this panel directly down to the craft cardstock. And this is my Riptol adhesive in an alcohol ink bottle. I get those on Amazon. You get like 50 of them. And I really like them. If that one gets too gummed up, I can just toss it and grab a new one. But I've been using the same one for at least 6 months, so they'll last me forever. I've tried other glues in those, but I haven't had a whole lot of success with it. Like I tried the multimedia matte, and it still clogs up in the little thin needle tip. And you know, it's super hard to push out of the bottle on that particular bottle. So I'm just getting this, making sure this is nice and stuck down. And I'm going to go ahead and trim a piece just to where my cut was crooked. I'm going to trim that off so that the whole top is even. And you'll see I save the little pieces that I trim off because they curl and they make pretty cool embellishments. So, and I'll show you in some other card. I'm not going to do it on today's card, but they're kind of cool, just little extra pieces there. And I'm grabbing some foam here. I think I'm going to grab some foam. I do want to pop this up, this piece. I don't want it popped up too high, but I do want it popped up a bit. So I'm just going to set that little piece aside, and I'll probably lose it, and that's okay. There's more, believe me. I don't think I've folded a card base yet that was completely straight. And I've got just this foam that I got at the Dollar Tree. You got a big old stack of it, but it's only maybe half a centimeter thick. It's not thick at all, but it's perfect for what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that down to a little bit smaller than the panel that I want to stick down. So I'm going to go at 3.75, but I do end up trimming off that because it still kind of sticks over the edge. I don't want it sticking over the edge, but I don't want it super thick. I just want enough to create a tiny little shadow. So I'm just going to hold it up here and see if it sticks out over the sides anywhere, and decide to just trim off maybe, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch on each side. There we go. I'll get this stuff out of my way here. And I'm going to go ahead and just add some glue to this panel, to the back of this panel. And the thing about gluing fun foam or any kind of foam is it doesn't stick right away, so you want to get it in place and kind of not mess with it too much after that, because it will slippy slide around on you. So see, I've got good edges sticking out over the corners, and I'm just going to smooth this down a little bit, trying to make sure I don't move it while I'm smoothing it, so I'm just lightly doing it. And then I'm going to go ahead and add glue to the piece of foam. I figure if you want it thicker, you can glue two together. For $1, you just can't beat it. You cannot beat that. And it's probably scrap from something else, and sorry about that. Looks like the cats want to fight in the background. And I'm just going to go ahead and stick this down to the Dress Blues little panel that I made. I'm just going to clean off the excess glue. And I'll go ahead and just lay a, oh my gosh, what are those cats doing? I'll go ahead and lay an acrylic block on there and let it dry. So once it's dry, I'm going to grab this Thanks die, and it's in two parts. So it's got a shadow layer, and then it's got the letters layer. And the letters cut out separately, by the way. So you do have to glue them on individually, but it's worth it. So I'm going to take just a piece of accent opaque 110-pound cardstock, and I'm going to color it the way I want it. So I want the thanks word to be in the Game Over red. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a blending brush, and I'm just going to blend an area here that I want to be this red. And the ink pad's nice and juicy because I just re-inked it. And I don't need to do a whole lot because it's only that one little portion. But I want it nice and deep red, and I just check for fit. Yep, that fits. And then I'm going to flip it over and wipe off my red ink because, you know, we'll get it everywhere. And I'm going to do the other side in the, what am I going to do it in? Vintage photo, I guess. And I start out dark, but I go lighter, and I will be cutting this out 3 times. So this part I'm coloring doesn't really matter, but what I'm trying to do is blend it out to a lighter shade. Right there is the shade that I want. So I'm just kind of swooshing my ink around on there. And I didn't even really need to do this other edge, but I did it, so that's that. Just want to make sure I get the color that I want where I want it. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this up so that it'll fit into my sidekick, because I don't see the point in getting out, you know, going through my whole Vagabond 2 electric machine when I can crank this out pretty quickly with my sidekick. I'm going to just trim the first one off that I want to be the top shadow layer, and just to make sure it'll fit through the sidekick. And I can probably get 2 out of that, so I'm not going to cut it up just yet. I'll just cut them later. I'm just going to trim some of that red off, get this stuff out of the way. Then I'm going to fold up my little mat here just to get it out of the way so I can make sure that my sidekick sticks down to my glass mat. I'm just going to grab my little cutting pads here, and I'm going to start with the word, the separate letter word, on the little red piece of paper. I'm just going to lay that down on there. I'm trying to move it so you can see it, and then lay the other one on top. I'm not even going to tape it. Most of the time you can hold that together. I'm just going to run that through the machine. And I'm going to turn it over and pull it out right here. And you see all those are stuck in there. I'm going to set that aside. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut out the shadow layers. So that's my first shadow layer. That's the one that's going to be on top. Just make sure my word's in there nice and even, covertly as far as the ink color goes. And run that through. And I'm just going to poke that out, and I'm going to do 2 more of them with the other piece of paper that I had. Sandwich that in, run it through. actually have, you know, a lot of friends on here, a lot of followers and stuff that are also veterans, mostly ladies. And ladies, man, I salute you. It's a tough job. And there we go. Grab that last one, poke it out, and get this stuff right up out of the way here. And now I'm going to take my stuff off of here so that I can fold this back down. There's my little hairy piece. I'm just going to take my pokey tool and poke out the letters here. And they poke out pretty easy. I really like that sidekick for small jobs like this. It's just so convenient because I don't even have to get up off my hiney. Yeah, that's lazy, I know. This is why I'm fat, and you know, the fork and the bundt cakes and things like that. I'm just going to pull out each one of these little letters, and I'm about to show you what I love the most about this silicone mat. I'm going to just kind of separate out these letters some, get that little piece out of there I don't need. And they're hard to pick up when you've got nails or not because the mat is sticky. I'm just going to move them apart kind of. I'm going to grab this game over. I'm going to ink it up with a brush. And look at that. I can get the sides and everything without even, you know, picking them up with my fingers. It gets right down into those sides of those letters. So that's the main reason why I love this map, is coloring in tiny, tiny stuff. So I'm going to pick those up and try and get them out of the way there so I can clean off that red. Having a heck of a time moving them though, because they're wet and I don't want to get red ink all over my fingers. But I don't want to waste that red ink either, so, because there's a lot there. I'm just going to move each one of these little letters aside. And I'm going to just make sure I don't get water on my letters there. Get that wet and smoosh it down on the same piece of paper that I smooshed the blue on earlier. I'll make a beautiful purple with some blue. We'll use that for a background or a die cut or whatever. And I'll go ahead and wipe off the rest. Okay. Just a little bit of hand sanitizer on my hands so that if there's any ink that could rub off, I will have rubbed it off already, because I'll be working with a lighter color here. And I haven't quite yet figured out how I'm going to use that little scrubby brush with long nails, because that's why my nails were so trashed from using that little pumice thing getting ink off my fingers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these three together. Just throw some glue on. Pick up the second layer and just lay it right on top. Pick it up and just kind of push them together so they're nice and even, and pick off any excess glue that might have oozed out. So I'm going to go ahead and put glue on that layer, and then I'll glue my top layer down. And I want to make sure I get glue throughout, because I will be, you know, trying to get the sides covered with ink too. And I don't want it to flake apart on me. I'll go ahead and just give that a good push. Make sure it's good and stuck down. And haven't decided where I'm going to put this on the card just yet, so we'll table that for a minute. And what I want to do here is drink some coffee, and it's early when I started this video, like 6:30 in the morning or something like that. I'm going to start to glue these little letters on. And so I'm just going to put a little tiny bit of glue on here, and with each one I'm going to tap it off, you know, way out of the way so I don't make a mess. because I don't want the glue oozing out of there, because this is a water-based ink and there's water in the glue, and it'll change the color even though it dries clear. The moisture, the wet that you get on there will change the color, and I'm not looking to do that. So I just glue each letter on individually, thinking about the whole time I'm working, thinking about the people out there that have defended our country and continue to do so. And not just our country, other countries too. So, yeah. I sent Mike to Hardee's to get me some breakfast. It's my Sunday morning, so I like to have the sausage platter with gravy and biscuit, the whole 9 yards on my Sunday morning. So hopefully he's gone he's gone and I get to finish this video, because he's the cutie that goes, "I'm home." Me, I walk in silently and don't say a word. So, you know, these letters, I don't mind that they're individual because they fit just perfect. There's not really a whole lot of thinking to do about it. It's just gluing each letter at a time. Flip that around. Just kind of use my tweezers to grab it and place it where I need it. Come on, there you go. And once I get it where I want it, I give it a push with my finger. Okay, I just got a funny message, so that was, sorry about that. Get my K down, and all I've left is my little S. Push that down, clean off any excess glue. And let's get done and get that S on there. Make sure it's straight. There we go. Now I'm just gonna clean off my glue off my mat here. Cleans up pretty easy. It cleans up the water, so I'm good with that. And try and bend my card kind of back into shape. I'm not sure what happened, but it tried to go crooked on me. Now I'm trying to decide where to put this. Did you hear it? So yeah, it happened. Back to my card here. So I'm really still trying to decide where I want to put these things. And you know, I don't want to put a bunch else on the card because I really don't have anything else that would really kind of go with it. You know, if I had like a Medal of Honor or something like that, I'd put that on there, but I don't. So I'm just going to go ahead and edge up the sides of this things. And I'm just using what's left on my brush from the vintage photo. Just so there's nothing white showing through. Again, we can just pretend like we never had any white cardstock. See, here's my little piece here, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'll use this on here as like a little ribbon. And I guess a ribbon would do. But, you know, maybe I want to give this to a guy, and yeah. So that's, you know, that's one way that I might use something like that, but I'm not going to use it today. I want this down at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my glue. I don't need anything to pop it up because it's already popped up with 3 layers of the shadow layer. And I'm going to just lay it down right, basically, yeah, about in the 3rd to 4th range of the card. And just press it down. Well, I hope you like this card, and thanks again for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. I'd like to hear your veteran stories. And if you like to see more videos, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell if you want to be notified when I upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching. Y'all have a wonderful day.